What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Own the Hunt. I'm here with Brandon today, and we're going to tell you guys about the Varmint LRF by AGM. Stick with us. Alright guys, so like I said, we are here today to tell you guys all about the AGM Varmint line. Not only this model, but one of their other models as well. So what we have here is their Varmint TS50-384. We're also going to cover the TS35-384. Both excellent thermal optics, pretty affordable. And Brandon has a lot of time behind both of them, so he's going to kind of cover some of his experiences. I'm going to go over some of the specs and stuff with you guys. Definitely don't want to bore you with a bunch of specs. I don't want to spend a bunch of time on this video going over specs. So some high level things real quick to cover. Price on this model, which is the TS50, looking at $34.95. That's going to be your dealer pricing. I know AGM has it for more on their website, but that's your dealer pricing. Definitely check out Logan at Fall River Shooters, guys. I've said it a bunch of times. If you're new to the channel though, Logan at Fall River Shooters, he is going to hook you guys up good. Mention Own the Hunt. He might have a little something special for you on the back burner. So Brandon, what do you think of this?
For the money, it's hard to beat.
It's a pretty awesome scope. I've looked through it and it works really well. Really quick, base mag on the 50 is 4.5 power, goes up to 32 power. Obviously 4.5 is your kind of optical magnification, and then any magnification thereafter is all digital. So every time you magnify, you're gonna lose resolution. So resolution on this guy, as well as the 35, is 384 core. It's not a 640 model, and it's also not a 256 model. So it's kind of right there in the sweet spot, and it does a great job. It's got a 12 micron sensor, and it does a really good job pulling in a pretty clear image. The focal ring, everything works awesome. So I'm gonna get this out, but while I do, I'm gonna kind of let Brandon go over some of the pros on this guy. Like I said, he's got a lot of time behind this scope. So tell us, what are some of the pros on this? What things you like the most?
18650 batteries is huge.
Okay.
They're cheap, they're readily available. You do need to make sure you buy the correct ones. The length does matter. They make some shorter ones, and those will not work. What happened was when I put the shorter ones in, they would turn on, and then you'd fire, and the scope would shut off. It just wasn't quite long enough for the.
Oh, so it would disconnect the battery terminal. Yep. So check the specs on that, guys. Make sure you're rocking the proper.
I want to say 70 millimeter. That's correct.
Yep. So he's got a night core battery in here right now.
That's one Logan sent out with it. He wanted us to try it to see how it compared to the manufacturer's batteries.
Yep. So how many does the unit come with?
Comes with those two. Yep. And Logan, when he sends out a kit, he sends out with extra batteries.
Awesome. So yeah, check out Logan. Like I said, guys, fallrivershooters.com. So battery's a big pro. What kind of battery life you getting on this?
Oh, in the cold, easy 4 hours. So one thing I didn't realize about the battery meter is that there's actually 4 indicators. There's the 3 bars, and then there's the empty bar, the empty battery light, which is actually another level. So I was taking batteries out before I ever needed to.
Okay. So the manufacturer says 4.5 hours of runtime on a single 18650 battery. And I think that's pretty excellent, really.
It absolutely gets all of
these 18650s are cheap, readily available, and so carry a few with you. You got a whole night worth of hunting with a few batteries. So I love that. I love that they use that 18650 battery. So another pro. Tell us about the mount on this scope.
So as all AGM products, they come with an ADM quick detach mount, and you can take that thing off and put it on 100 times. As long as you put it back in the same spot, it's hold zero.
Yeah,
I've never had any trouble.
These ADM mounts are pretty sweet, and a big bang for your buck when you're buying one of these scopes. It's nice to know that you get a quality mount with it, because like there's some scopes out there, you buy them, you spend thousands of dollars, and they don't come with a mount, and that's a bummer. But AGM has you covered. They not only include a mount, but they include a super high quality USA made mount in American Defense Manufacturing. So kudos AGM. Tell us about the laser rangefinder on this. So part of the Varmint line is that they have a laser rangefinder on them. The laser rangefinder is up here on top, guys. I'll get you a close-up of that. But basically, it sits on top of this. It's really nicely done. It's streamlined. I think they did a great job with it. It doesn't protrude like really aggressively and look terrible. So tell us about that. Like, what are your experiences with it?
So I've seen guys complain about theirs not working. I haven't had that experience with. I've had this, and I've also had the TS35 that I ran for a year. As long as there isn't much moisture, which that's going to affect any laser rangefinder.
Yeah.
650 yards accurately.
Yeah. So when he says moisture, if it's a humid night or something, laser rangefinders can sometimes have a really hard time cutting through that. It doesn't, like you said, it doesn't matter what you're going with. If you got a pulsar that has a laser rangefinder, it's gonna struggle getting through that. So it's not a con on AGM's part. It's just the nature of the beast. You know, humidity, it affects not only the image quality of thermals, but it affects the laser rangefinder from being able to work.
One thing you need to keep in mind is the nice cap, the lens cover that they incorporate. That thing can spin around, and if that flips up in front of your laser rangefinder, it's not
Oh yeah.
work.
All right, so good point. If you happen to flip your cap up like that, well, now you can't laser rangefind. So keep that in mind. Flip it to one side or the other. It does flip back. So something I really like about caps, if you guys know me and watch the channel, is I like a cap that will flip back pretty much all the way. I wish this would touch the housing, just so it can't catch on stuff. And they did a pretty good job. It's almost 90 degrees backward, but I'm not going to name any names, but I've reviewed a scope on the channel that the lens cap basically just came back like this, and that's a no-no for me. Put in the extra work to get it to flip backward. So what else for pros?
Onboard video.
Yep, so these feature onboard video recording, and they do a good job. It's really easy to do. You can start the video from the scope, stop the video from the scope, and then you can plug it into your computer, capture the video that way. Or
what I really like to do, and this is the way I get my audio, is that.
So before you talk about this, we should mention one of the cons on this is that it doesn't do audio recording. So if that's a must for you, there is a workaround. I'm not going to let you go into full detail on it. I did get an email the other day. A guy actually emailed me. He watched Brandon and I's video on the TS25 Rattler. It's an AGM Rattler. It also has video but no audio. He actually reached out to me in an email and was like, how are you getting audio with that thing? So I sent him an email back and explained it, and he's like, makes perfect sense. Got it. Good. So I didn't have to go into too much depth. I'm also not going to let you go into too much depth on this one because it's a lengthy process, but high level, what are you doing? So these have an app called T-Vision, and on your phone, what are you doing?
You just connect the scope to your app, and then you basically go in on your phone and select the screen record button, and it just, whatever your scope is seeing or whatever your phone is seeing from the scope,
it's going to capture that.
And you can choose whether you want audio or not with your phone too.
Yep.
I mean,
it'll use your phone's microphone, capture the screen, and save it as a file into your camera roll. It works really slick. And maybe we'll do a video on that at some point, just like kind of how to do it, because I do think we'll get some questions on it, and it's a good thing to know, especially with these scopes that don't do onboard audio recording. So if you guys do want audio on your recording on your scope and you don't want to have to use that workaround, AGM has their adder line, the ADDER adder, and those offer onboard video and audio recording. And Brandon's currently using one of those scopes, and it seems to be working well. So if you want audio, pick up an adder. You're not going to get the built-in laser rangefinder, so there's definitely a trade-off there. Just keep that in mind. Okay, so another pro on these, in both of our opinions, is the size and weight. I know firsthand that when I pick up Brandon's setup, and he's got this mounted on top of his rifle, and I pick it up, I'm like, darn, that's light. This is nice. So these things only weigh a little over 1.5 pounds, like 1.7 pounds.
Yep.
That's the manufacturer spec on these. Guys, these are light. These are short. They're compact. It kind of dwarfs my Pulsar Thermion 2 with the LRF on it, and not only in weight but in size. So
and the 35 model is actually even lighter. I think
Yep.
it's 1.4.
Yeah, so the 35, which has a 35 millimeter Bell front focal lens, is even smaller. So
it is noticeably
yeah,
lighter.
how they're jamming all that into these little packages is pretty incredible. So This scope does have a front focus ring here that lets you dial in your focal image, and they also have a rear diopter focus ring here as well. Both work really well. This one on front is a little tight, little snug, and with gloves on, it could be kind of hard to get at. I know there are possibly some 3D models on the market that have a throw lever on them. So if that's something that's a big deal to you, you could look into that. Did you say Logan's looking to make one? Yeah. So Logan at Fall River, who we've mentioned a million times on the channel, shout out Logan, is looking to make a 3D printed throw lever for these, which pretty much all of them on the market are 3D printed. That's kind of the name of the game with this stuff. But that would probably help a lot. It's probably, I wouldn't say it's a con because it's just in the design of the scope, but it is hard to get to.
It is a little bit harder with the larger
focal lens.
Yeah,
yep.
focal lens.
I think getting your hand in here is cumbersome if I'm being nitpicky, and that's really what that is, nitpicky. Comes with a eye cup. Is this magnetic or no? Pressed in. So if you don't want to use this, you don't have to. You can pop it off, and then just pop it back on if you do want to use it. Okay, guys. So another con for me, at least, is that in these AGM scopes, the reticle alignment is a little bit buggy, and I think it could probably be fixed with some firmware or software updates. Brandon's dealt with it quite a bit, so I'm gonna let him kind of tell you what's actually happening. But essentially, the reticle isn't always in the dead center of the image, and I'm gonna kind of let you explain that. I don't really have a lot of experience with it. Could be a deal breaker for some. It's definitely not a deal breaker for you, given the value here in the scope and what all it has to offer. But tell us about what it's doing there.
So these scopes have picture-in-picture, and when you zero your rifle, you move your crosshairs to where your bullet's impacting. Well, when you do that, it stays there on the screen, and if your rifle's not perfectly centered with the scope right out of the box, then it's going to be off a little bit. But I don't tend to notice it unless I put my picture-in-picture, and the picture-in-picture is perfectly centered in the screen itself. And it's not a huge deal, but for others that have OCD issues like Cody over here, it can bug some people. But it doesn't change. It doesn't make it any less accurate. It doesn't make it work.
Yeah, I mean they hold zero. It's not a functionality issue.
And it's odd because as soon as you zoom this thing, they have this little wheel for the zoom. It goes away. It goes perfectly centered with both of them center up. So I don't know why they can't fix that, or they haven't fixed it.
It's just simply, it's got to be a software and firmware thing.
But so what I found myself doing was I was not using that picture-in-picture. I wasn't shooting off it. I was shooting off the lower reticle. So I stopped using it.
Yep. Stopped using picture-in-picture, you mean?
Yeah, I stopped using the picture-in-picture.
Yep.
And just used the wheel to zoom.
Yep.
When I want to take my shot and I want to make sure I'm taking a good, accurate shot, I zoom in, take my shot, and then you can spin this thing back and it's right back.
Yeah, so I would say that's a pro on this scope. This is actually
pro.
Sweet. Being able to zoom quickly in and out with this wheel.
And it's fast.
It is. The other thing that drives me nuts about these is their laser rangefinder box is not in the center of the screen. So here's the thing. Like when I go to rangefind with one of these, I'm expecting to be able to put my crosshair on the target, hit the laser rangefind button, and that's where I'm ranging. And that's not the case. These actually put a laser rangefinder box typically off, like to the right and above, correct?
It actually, the laser rangefinder box stays on the picture, so wherever your crosshairs ended up when you're done sighting your rifle in, that's where your box is. But you could have a problem with your laser rangefinder being left on and missing a coyote. I don't know. Has that happened?
Yeah. He's referencing something I did earlier on in the season. I had my laser rangefinder in continuous mode, and I actually shot at the coyote using the laser rangefinder box as my reticle. Rookie move. But that said, guys, those are some pretty nitpicky things. If that's really all we have negative to say about these
Did we
devices,
mention the 5-year warranty?
Oh, yes. So new this year, within the past month. January of 2023, and it is February 11th today,
yes.
2023. So about a month ago, AGM released or announced a 5-year warranty on these. That is market or industry leading as far as warranty goes. So home run for AGM. That does not mean that you're going to need 5 years. They're just saying, hey guys, we stand behind our products and we're going to warranty them for 5 years. So kudos AGM. big step in the right direction for not only AGM but for the industry. I think you'll see more manufacturers follow suit with that, so huge kudos. That's pretty much it as far as like, you know, specs and pros and cons and all that. But really quick, I want you to touch on, so you've used this, the 50 and the 35, and when we say 50 and 35, the biggest difference there, excuse me, is
the difference is the base magnification.
Yeah, the only difference is your base magnification, and the fact that the 50, which is this one, has a 50mm front focal lens, and the 35 has a 35mm front focal lens. And what that means is a difference in base magnification. So this is a 4.5 power base mag. The 35 is a 3 power base mag. Tell us about your experiences with the difference between the two and the types of hunting we do and how it would benefit someone or not benefit someone.
Okay, so here in Maine, it tends to be tight cover. We have some bigger open spaces, but I found that the 4.5 was too much for me. There was a hunt recently that Cody and I were both on. We were in a really tight spot. It was new. We'd never been there. We went there in the dark, and there was a coyote coming from my left, and I was having trouble finding it, and I didn't find it until
I took the shot.
Yeah, I literally was on it when you took the shot.
And I was running a 3 power base magnification scope, and I shot that coyote on base mag. I didn't zoom in, nothing.
Whereas with the 35, I never would have had that trouble.
No.
It's my favorite scope. I mean, hands down. I've used a lot of them now, and the Varmint and the 3 power base mag is my favorite scope so far.
3 power seems to be that kind of perfect sweet spot, at least for us. I know some people that are like, you know, hunting coyotes Midwest where they have really, really long terrain. Sometimes that base magnification can help with, like, you know, identification at further ranges and stuff. But the thing is like, if you're going to be taking those shots close up, like 4.5 is just too much. You don't have the field of view that you need to be able to find game coming in quickly. So 3 power, at least for us, works better. That's why this 4.5 power is going back to Logan. It was kind of a test for Brandon to see, like, hey, would I like this better? And in fact, it didn't work out as well as we had hoped it would for him. All right, guys, well, that's pretty much it on this AGM Varmint LRF. The TS50 384. If you guys are interested in picking one up for yourself, check out Logan at fallrivershooters.com. He will hook you up and you won't be sorry. And until next time on the Hunt, we'll see you later.